Welcome.
You're now listening to Dirty Feet.
Bonjour, oui, vous êtes sur les ondes des pieds sales, aka
Dirty Feet podcast on No More Radio.
And hosted by
Joanie Farran,
JD Papillon,
Allison Burns. Stay tuned, we're going to move you.
Mother, mother, I'm on fire. I'm a cheer and a liar.
We did it. We made it through Fringe 2013 here in Montreal. And we did our best to check out as much dance as possible at the Fringe and other movement shows and whatnot. And congratulations to Jasmine Fife Dance that won the award from Bouge DC. It was for best choreographer. Oh, I think it was most outstanding choreographer or choreography. And that was the show Pulse. They were from Toronto. I do believe they've already headed home, but I can't wait to see more of them.
And congratulations to Faster Presents The Elephant in the Room, Allison's own show, which won the Freebie Award. What's the Freebie Award, Allison, exactly?
The Freebie Award is from the Freestanding Room, which is a small theater space here in Montreal. And the award is for doing a lot with a little. And it's for like a minimalist production. And we were really thrilled to be chosen to win that award. And that means we get to do a run at the Freestanding Room sometime in the next year.
And where's the Freestanding Room exactly?
It's on Saint Laurent, just north of Rachel.
And Fringe is over, and I don't know about you guys if you've gone to the Fringe, but I am exhausted. That's the thing with the Fringe. It's such a roller coaster of activities and social events and everything. Mm-hmm. It is draining. It's fun. It's really fun because you get to socialize with so many artists, quite often artists who are not limited to dance. But man, once the end of the Fringe comes around, I'm exhausted. I don't know about you guys.
I feel pretty good actually, but I do want to say a big thank you to all the choreographers and dancers that have participated in the Fringe who went to see a lot of other people's dance shows. I ran into a lot of people that I saw performing, the choreographers, the dancers, so I think it's great that everybody's supporting each other and trying to have more and more people go to different shows, because of course sometimes it's hard to get attendance with the times, with the weather, with whatever reason, the many shows in the Fringe. But I think that everybody's supporting each other very well. So, yeah, kudos. Awesome, guys.
Yeah, I'd like to bring a special mention for Anne-Fleur de Rochambeau and her company presenting Sans Dessus. That was one of the best dance shows I've ever seen at the Fringe. It was a really professional dance show. She just graduated last year from the UQAM program, and it was beautifully crafted. The spatial construction in that piece was just very powerful, and I'm really excited to see what comes up next.
Amazing. So after 2 episodes and this little brief intro, I think it's time to close the book on Fringe. If you want to catch up at this point, we have reviewed all the dance shows, and Bloody Underrated has reviewed all of the shows in the Fringe Festival. So you can check that out. Some of them will be reprised. Some of them will be touring. So if you're in Ottawa and Toronto, you can check it out. And that's on bloodyunderrated.net. Next up, we're going to be talking about
Piss in the Pool, which is upcoming in the next few days, June 26th through June 29. We're going to have on the show Helen, Simard, and Andreane Leclerc. They're all going to be presenting work at Piss in the Pool, so we're going to hear about it in a few minutes.
Just quickly before we move on to our guests, though, I'd like to mention for people who are in around Charlevoix or Quebec City in those regions, as part of the Festival International du Domaine Forget, there will be a presentation of Rubber Band Dance's Gravity of Center, which I've seen when they first presented it in Montreal, a year and a half ago or so, and it's a fantastic show. It will be July 3rd at 8 p.m. And also, as part of the Festival International, they are also hosting a workshop, a 2-week workshop for professionals. It's probably closed right now for applications, but they held it last year too. So if you're interested, look it up for next year. It's a really great opportunity to learn from a fantastic dance company. Before we start talking to our guests, here's the last song by the band Dead Messengers, which is going to be part of Helen Simard's piece.
Row your boat off the deep end line. Come and go. Oh my God, there before your grace go. Been the last song.
So joining us in studio right now are Helen Simard and Andreane Leclerc, both of whom are choreographing as part of this year's Piss in the Pool, which, as we mentioned earlier, is from June 26th through June 29th at 8:30 p.m. It's at Bain Saint-Michel on Saint-Dominique at the corner of Maguire. So hi Helen, hi Andreane, how are you doing today?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for having us.
So on this very hot day that we're recording, Piss in the Pool is a really interesting event, especially considering the summertime in Montreal. It is about sort of reintegrating a space that is non-conventional for performance. Is it the first time that you're both doing Piss in the Pool?
I presented work at Piss in the Pool in 2011. That was the first time I had done the show. I presented a solo. What's fun about the event is that we get residency for 3 weeks to create work for the space. And so I had really gone in that year with absolutely no idea of what I was going to work on. I walked into the space and kind of was like, what do you do with this giant empty swimming pool that's kind of dingy, kind of dirty, and really, really muggy and sweaty and hot when it's hot in Montreal. And so that year I had actually created a solo that ended up being about the whole Margie Gillis Sun News conundrum, because it happened really, that interview aired the day I walked into the pool, and it really affected me, kind of wondering about like, well, why do we make art and why do I dance and what have I been doing with my life, and did I make good decisions that mean anything to anyone other than me? And then it was a lot of fun, a great experience to work on something new and just work something out in a space. Last year I hosted the event, which was a very different experience and again a lot of fun. And we're at Bain Saint-Mathieu last year because of a complication with the locations. So it was a really different vibe, air conditioning, bar, nice lighting, totally different experience. So this year I'm really happy to be back in Bain Saint-Michel.
In the dingy space.
In the dingy spot, because I think that's more the type of thing I feel comfortable doing. Yeah. So it's my third year in the event and I'm having a great time. I'm looking forward to the show opening on Wednesday.
Well, for me, it's my first time doing Piss in the Pool. So I'm very nervous about it, and it's a totally another, it's new work, and it's the first time that I'm choreographing something on 3 other circus artists, 2 contortionists, and one who used to do contortion, but this time her back was not responding well, so she's more like of a main character with the 2 other contortionists around. So it was so it's all very, very new for me, this event, yeah.
That's one of the things that's really interesting about having you two in the studio right now with us. It's really interesting because you come from very varied backgrounds. You come from 2 very different backgrounds, and yet they're sort of joined at the tip by you both doing a master's at UQAM. How do you feel that your respective experiences and your paths and everything have led you to an event such as Piss in the Pool or to dance in general?
Well, for those who don't know me, although I'm very famous and everyone should know me. No, I'm kidding. You can cut that out. Or keep it. I finished my Bachelor's of Fine Arts at Concordia in 2000 and was co-artistic director of Solid State Breakdance Collective from 2000 through to 2012, just past year. So toured a lot and worked mostly with breakdance and urban dance mixed with physical theater for most of my career. In 2010, I had decided not to perform with Solid State anymore and continue working just as a choreographer, because for me, at my own kind of point in my career, I felt that I wanted breaking. It's very physically demanding, and I wanted it to be more something that was just for me and not something that I did in performance anymore, because you practice and train very differently when you're performing something than when you're just practicing it for yourself. And my own personal work has gone more towards maybe a contemporary performance or interdisciplinary vibe. And so for me to have the chance to work on Piss in the Pool was really fun, because I think a lot of people in Montreal still associate me to urban dance, breakdancing, and more of like a very comical style of choreography or theater. And what I'm working on now is a lot more, I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely mixing mediums. I'm working with musicians. I'm working a lot on this idea of choreographic reframing and trying to present things that aren't dance in a choreographic manner. And so for me, having an opportunity to present something in an established showcase, where there's an audience coming who may or may not know me, and to present something that I definitely think no one will be expecting from me, is a really nice opportunity. And it's nice to create work in a really condensed manner as well. So instead of having 2 years to do a big process where you just end up messing around and not really creating anything till the last minute anyways, I'm kind of done with that. I'd rather just create in an intense fashion and really have an idea and go into a space and make something and see if it works or not. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Well, for me, I did the National Circus School for 5 years, where I finished in 2001. And then I've been touring way more on the traditional circus field. So I did start with Eloise, but then after that I went to Europe and lived in caravans and touring with chapiteaux and horses and tigers and so on. After that I went more like on the variety kind of field, because that's what you do when you do circus. And, but I was just missing a lot of, sense and, reason of being and doing what I'm doing. I've never been really satisfied in just showing what I was doing. And so even if we have a big approach of like contemporary circus and trying to have like a démarche artistique behind and stuff, I always felt that the context in which circus was presented and the horizon d'attente with which the audience come to see a show was often blocking a way to really create like a sensitive relation and to really build something on stage with the audience. And well, just looking for more deepness. So this lead me to the theater field at UQAM, so where I just finished a master. But my subject was on the dramaturgy of circus. So how did I arrive into the dance field? I have no idea. Because it always made interest me to know why my work is more presented in the dance field. Maybe because it's contortion. I don't use word much, and so it's really more into movement. But yeah, I really have more like theater and circus background behind. But my work have been presented already at Tangente, and there's a new work will be presented at Tangente next year. So there's Piss in the Pool. I just did Short and Sweet. So, I just go where I think it goes. I think that's more my circus background. I'm just open and just flow. And if it's there, it's there. And so, yeah.
I was talking recently with a fellow circus artist of yours who was sort of lamenting the fact that in the Montreal circus scene right now, there is not much space for questioning of the typical presentations of performance of the body and stuff like that. And he also is moving a bit more towards the dance scene, maybe because it allows this questioning.
A lot, yeah.
Do you find that your circus experience becomes restrictive in any way when you're trying to broach new approaches to the body, or do you feel that, on the other hand, it just opens up the horizon much more?
Well, I do think it opens because it's all new. Well, for me, I don't know. I just feel it's a journey I'm doing. So through my body, through stage, and the other thing is, my subject of thesis was the deconstruction of the prowess and how the prowess can become a way to write stage. So in that sense, and because I wanted to, can the prowess support a dramaturgy? Can a prowess support an outside idea that just passed through it? Can it become a vehicle of representation? So in that sense, it can be like it's you then can start to talk about almost anything. That was like one of my goals. Can I let a painting passing through me? Can I talk about actuality, politic, through that to support this idea more than, wow.
It's
it
pretty
so easy. It's amazing what you're doing or something, you know, but then after that, I wanted to question. Yeah. So I think it opens if we can just go further. And so Piss in the Pool. And there's a lot of stage in Montreal that I think more in the dance field that, and even the Fringe now, that are stage that let and allow the artist to really try out and to really go and take risk. And so yesterday I was talking with Sasha and my interpret that are just finishing school. The National Circus School. And so that was this idea. We were talking a lot about this idea of taking risk. You know, is that the risk of the body when you do something and that you have to be super like tense almost in the body. How do you find a release? How do you find another kind of danger and to let your body be surprised of the moment, to see almost impossible way to resolve something. So then in that sense, it's not something that we normally do in circus because you will never allow yourself to go in that way because you can just die. But, you know, or be under very... So...
It's the risks that are not really as much out there as we traditionally see in circus. Like if you see someone walking on a wire, you're like, oh, they might fall. But in contortion, you don't really think, well, this might have an adverse effect on the body. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, it's just, no, because I mean, contortion, if you're not warm, like if you do deep contortion, if I sit on my head, if, you know, you stand on your hand or something, if you're not warm enough, you can have big back problem. You can have entorse of the back, the things are pulling, your digestion, you really can get injured, your bones are moving out, you know, just big bunch of things that can happen. Your hips can just, you know, switch in one movement. So now it's just as well a matter of accepting to not go maybe in the deep contortion and to find like the space in between when you're really warm and not warm where you can just move and live the movement. And then after that with the contortion, it just like opens to a whole another approach to the body and the space and the relation to the floor, the relation to the others, and so.
And maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand from what you were saying, because there's a physical risk we all understand for contortion, but at the same time it's almost something safe because you as circus artists know how to use that artifice to impress an audience, and maybe what you're trying to do now is take a different kind of risk, maybe an emotional or an artistic risk, and not rely on those tricks that you know people will like. And I think that's what dance gives to a lot of different disciplines, is a chance to take risks outside of their technique. You know, because I think in dance we really understand that art isn't made for technique, it's made by technique. And so how can we use these techniques to create something new and personal and honest and generous instead of something that just, once again, entertains an audience and gives them what they expect. I think that's where contemporary dance in Montreal is right now, is this wanting to find new ways to satisfy the artist and the audience, or maybe not give them what they expect, maybe give them something that leaves them unsatisfied and wanting more, you know? So we're playing with those codes, I think, right now. Maybe I kind of understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
But totally. So now it's really like a research of how to find a living prowess, how you can make the prowess live and grow through a certain time and space.
There's an interesting parallel between both of your works, that I find anyway. Helen, you were mentioning the reframing of the choreographic process, and also I feel that in Andreane's work that I've seen, there's also reframing of the audience, more of the audience gaze. And that is something that both of you sort of play with, of how the audience will be looking at the performer on stage. In your case, quite often it's moving this performance. In your case, Helen, I mean, it's really often moving the performance outside of the stage context. And Andreane, quite often it's more the performer accepting the gaze, but also returning that gaze towards the audience. How do you feel that this will be brought forward in Piss in the Pool? Because it's such a different context in the first place. It's not like a proscenium or a black box. The perspective is very different. The sight lines are really different in Piss in the Pool.
I mean, that's even when I was working with Solid State and working with bringing street dance into more traditional theaters. I feel like my entire artistic démarche has been about asking people to look at things differently, take it out of its usual context and put it in a new context, because we're always so obsessed with trying to do something new and original, and really that's not very possible anymore. And I think there's a lot of things that exist that are super interesting if we just turn them around and look at them a different way. So what I've been doing with this process, my piece, which is called Last Song Live Version, is I took a song from my husband's band's album, Dead Messenger, and it's called The Last Song. And it's actually just a song that they recorded for their album. They've never played it live. And they didn't even play it all together, because the recording process, you record one instrument at a time and you kind of build a song in a studio. So they had never played this song live. And so I said, well, what if we just take this song and stage a live performance of it, and imagine what a live performance of this song that doesn't exist in reality, it only exists in the digital world. What would that performance look like? And what's hard maybe for the audience is I'm asking them to watch a musical performance with the same attention to the body that you would give a dance performance. So we're not watching a band play to appreciate the music that they're playing. We're watching a band play to appreciate the movement and the rehearsal and the technique and all the detail physically that goes into making this musical performance happen. I'm really obsessed with that right now. I find it super interesting. A lot of postmodern dance, the whole démarche was about looking at pedestrian movements. But I find it really interesting to look at performative movements and intentional movements through the choreographic lens. So if we look at this body in a different way, it tells a completely different story. And all of a sudden, a lot of other things come out of it. And working with the guys in the space has been really interesting, because a song, even though there's lyrics in it, it's a very undirect, it's more like poetry. You don't know exactly what it's about. And how can we keep that undirectness and put it into a physical state instead of relying on words to tell us what it's about, and instead of relying on just the music to tell us what it's about and give us a feeling and an experience. So it's been a lot of fun in that way. And I think in this process, speaking of gaze, I mean, this is more in theory. This is more of a theoretical work that I've been doing, is there's a lot of talk in dance about male gaze on female performers, which I find is kind of like archaic, and we should stop talking about it, because it denies the female performer's pleasure in being watched, and her agency to decide to be watched in the first place. It's a very 1970s kind of second wave feminist view of it that American dance people should stop talking about. But anyways, I've really been working actually with a female gaze on male performers in this piece, because the main performers are all men. And so how do I, as a woman, look at these male bodies perform, and how do I ask female spectators or female performers to look at these male bodies is also a big part of the work. So, yeah, I think that the way that we choose, to look at art influences the art completely. Have you guys read the Frank Zappa autobiography? The Frank Zappa book? There's this whole section about it, about the frame and how it's the most important thing in art. Because he's like, it tells you where life ends and art begins, and it tells you what that shit on the wall is. And so, his example is if John Cage just swallows carrot juice and gurgles, it's just a guy swallowing juice and gurgling carrot juice. But if he tells you it's music, it's almost like he's willing it to be music. Then we can understand it as music and look at it as music, but we need to know what the frame is. So that's why I'm trying to be very clear with the fact this is not a band musical performance. It is a choreography, and I want you to watch it that way.
There's something really interesting about live musicians performing, because they're always straddling that line between something that is very task-based, which is, playing a musical instrument, but also the performance aspect. And, if you look at the postmoderns in New York, when they were doing task-based stuff, it was very random stuff that you would never associate with a performance, and they made it be a performance because of that framing. But musicians per se, if you put a musician playing an instrument, it is a task-based stuff. But as soon as you put them on stage, it's also a performance. But we never really questioned that line that they're in between.
That's what I find is so fascinating about it, is because they have an intention to make music, and we all understand that intention as spectators. So what I'm trying to do is say, let's switch the intention. Let's have this intention be, I'm not convinced it's dance. I don't know if what we're doing is dance, and I'm not really concerned if people think it's not dance.
Does it matter, though?
It doesn't matter if it's dance or not. It matters if it's a choreography, and that it definitely is. It is definitely a choreography, and it's definitely a piece about paying attention to the human body in motion as opposed to the sound that body is making. And I think that's fairly clear in what we've done. It'll be interesting to see if the audience thinks so or not.
Or they'll just be rocking out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a pretty good parlor trick. I got a bunch of cute rock and roll guys with tattoos doing an awesome show. So I think everyone will enjoy it, even if they're not sure it's dance or not.
Yeah, concerning the gaze of the audience, it's interesting because for me, I tried to create a fourth wall, which I didn't think before. Like that, I'm putting the audience all around the pool, standing and looking in the water. And so there's the tree contortionists, or the tree body, making their way through the pool. Yeah, normally I always include the audience. I'm really, probably because normally I'm alone on stage, so the audience become my partner. And now I wanted to see how the body will interact. So as well with guiding the eyes of the audience, but through interaction in their body. What is the influence that are happening between them, and how this evolve through the piece. So I didn't want to, maybe it was just too much information and things to deal with. But I wanted to amplify those walls of the pool, and really make this bottom of the pool live. Because contortion's really close off the ground, and so all this snaky kind of, movement. So to see that from very high.
Did you have any difficulties establishing a fourth wall, considering that it's a 360 performance and the audience can see each other, and that sort of diminishes the impact of a fourth wall, I feel, because the fourth wall is very much about this separation. And when the audience gets to see each other, especially in a standing up, moving around kind of context, the gaze is always sort of brought back to the other people who are watching, and that reduces the power of the gaze, quote unquote.
It's funny because the fourth wall, I think, was more on the other side. I thought of it for the performer to not perform for the audience. So
they are in an enclosed environment and thus very much disconnected from the audience.
Well, not totally disconnecting. I think, because I put them anyway as a part of the scenography. The audience become kind of the scenography to, amplify the wall. So, I'm thinking at the same time, it's interesting to actually talk about it. So, it's more, I think, in the idea to not perform for the audience, but to, after that, when you arrive in the show, I think I'm gonna have a big surprise, and see how it's gonna, resolve. Maybe what I'm thinking will not happen at all either. But at the moment, it's more about that so that the performer have a goal, have a trajectory, and then influences, and see how things can build together to reach a point.
Do you feel that the audience becomes part of the choreographic movement also? Because you mentioned that they are part of the scenography.
But somehow, yes, in that sense, yes.
I mean, in a way, what Helen was telling us is that with this rock and roll, with this reframing of the choreographic, you also influence the movement in the crowd, because, you put music on, people are going to move. you're making, this is a choreographic choice that is applied to the audience without them necessarily knowing. Do you feel that this is also something that you're kind of trying to do where the audience will become unwilling participants in the choreography that you're creating in the space?
I'm not really sure if I really understand.
I think, I mean, I can, just listening again to what you're saying, I think obviously if you're on one side of the pool and you're looking in from one side, you still see the audience on the other side. So that's part of the entire performance for you. And if there's an old guy who, you know, is really bored and doesn't like it and kind of being impatient, that becomes part of the choreography for the people standing watching it. Veut, veut pas, you know what I mean? I think what's great about Piss in the Pool is that we all accept that. Sometimes when you're in a theater and the lights are off and the audience is in the dark, it's easy to pretend they're not part of what's going on. But they're completely implicated in what's going on. And in doing this in a less traditional space and with sight lines that permit you to see other spectators, that's part of my experience as a spectator, is I see the people in front of me. And that's really how I began being really interested in this idea of rock shows as choreographic works. Was I went to see the Swans last year with some friends, and I'm kind of afraid of crowds. And so I don't know if you guys have ever seen Swans, but it's like, it's so loud. It's so loud. You have to wear earplugs to see their show. It's very well known. And it's so loud that the music hits you so hard that you might throw up or need to go to the bathroom or and they just play these 20-minute droning, insane compositions. And so for me, standing at the back of the room, everyone standing in front of me became part of the performance. And so the people who start moshing, that's part of the performance. Or the guy who can't get through because no one will let him to the front of the stage because he really wants to see, because he really likes Swans, but it's so packed that you can't get through. He's part of the performance. And the person who's at the bar trying to get a drink, that's part of the performance. So I think, you know, we can delude ourselves into thinking that there is the spectator. No, there's spectators, and every spectator has a unique experience in the audience. And I think that Piss in the Pool is a great chance for artists to really play with. How do you not manipulate spectators, but influence them? If they stand on one side, they see one thing. If they're in the deep end, they see another thing. I had a great experience when I did the show in 2011, where the audience actually got put in the wrong spot. They got put too close to where I had to dance, and my piece ended that year with me putting my foot up on the edge of the pool and lifting myself up with my leg and lying on the side of the pool. And I knew that my leg had to be, I could lift my leg to the 45 mark on the inside of the pool, and that's where I had to be to pull myself out. And there's an old man standing there at the 45 mark. And so I had to put my leg on his shoulder to pull myself out of the pool. And all of a sudden the piece meant something very different, because I'm using this person, especially with, I don't know if everybody listening is familiar with the whole Margie Gillis Sun News thing, but the interviewer had said to her over and over throughout the interview, why can't you do this without a leg up from taxpayers? And so all of a sudden I have this old man literally giving me a leg up, because I can't do my task without him. So I think it's great. The accidents become part of the show. You know, if there's a kid freaking out and having a temper tantrum, that's part of your show, and it's okay. I think at Piss in the Pool, we all know that. We're not gonna we embrace it, and we want it, and we want that diversity in the movement and the crowd.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I always want to leave the audience their work and their role as well, to see and to create their own interpretation of the piece. So I place them, I include them, like I said, in the scenographic idea. But then after that, what I can really work on at the moment, it's with those interpret. So it's more a question of for who they are performing. And for sure that the audience is there. I know I am in representation. I'm not in whatever, what you can be anti of. But,
anti everything.
So it's not at all into that. It was just for, I said that because normally I really take the audience and bring them in. I'm really in dialogue, a lot physically dialogue with the audience. And so that's just another way that for me that this piece is just totally different. To really try to, because again, it was for the prowess and for the interpret to really open them to this sensation and the closeness, and to let someone coming in their kinesphere, in their bubble, and what this like make influence them, and then what can you respond. So it was more in that sense to have dialogue between them in the space, and then the audience to almost have this feeling that they're gonna swallow them, or so for
like
sure, like somehow
wave.
they are involved, but what they're gonna get of it, that's gonna be, everybody's gonna read it in a different way because of their own history, of their own physicality, of their own, have they ever seen contortion before? That, like, it's always a big thing of, with what baggage the audience arrive with, and see, and the piece before and the piece after, and, that's a whole different, that's influenced a lot, the perception.
Helen, with you using rock and roll very much so as a vehicle right now, and in your case, Andreane, from talking with a lot of people who've seen your work, quite often one of the description is confrontational because of the way you look at the audience. Do you feel that confrontational would be something that does qualify your work? Is that intentional for both of you, or?
For me, no. Like, I definitely think, I think a lot of people in Montreal right now are trying to be provocative and confrontational, and we have to remember that, like, I don't know, Gigi Allen died on stage basically in the 1990s. That's like 20 years ago at this point. Bob Flanagan took like body performance to the next level, again, basically died. And you can't be confrontational, I don't think. What's the point? You can just do things, and if you're doing them honestly and generously, for some people it might be shocking, and for other people it might be banal. But I think trying to be confrontational is a goal that's destined to fail, because you can't try to do anything. You can do it or you can't. And that's my own perspective. Like, I studied physical theater in Paris with Philippe Gaulier, and we worked a lot on stop trying to do things and just do something, and let the audience decide what it means to them. And so for me, there might be people who find that the level of sound I'm working with is aggressive or confrontational, but that's them being used to not, enduring that level of sound. I go to really loud shows all the time. And so for me, it's not confrontational at all. It's actually quite pleasant and enjoyable to go to a show where there's really loud music that's filling the space and that's really getting into your body. I react very emotionally to it, and I enjoy that. So I hope that people don't think I'm trying to be push them, but I'm sure it will push some people, and maybe, and I don't think I'm trying to be confrontational and asking people to consider what dance is or isn't. I'm not trying to confront them. I'm trying to just ask them what their expectations are. And if they go home and consider that, then that's great. And then if they think I totally suck and my work is really dumb, I'm okay with that as well. Cause like at the end of the day, I'm choosing to present my work in front of an audience. And so they're all going to react to it the way they do.
But do you think confrontational is necessarily a pejorative quality? Do you think that confrontational could also be something where you bring people to have to reconsider preconceived notions?
Yeah, but again, I don't think that can be your intention. I think your intention just has to be to make work that you believe in. And I think that for me, my intention has to be to share that with an audience. So it's not my intention to confront them with my work. It's my intention to share my work with them. But
that might confront them.
Exactly. That might confront them. And I'm okay with that. It's
not the intention.
It's definitely not the intention, because I think we forget often in all the talk about the artist's intention and the artist's wants and desires and belief, that we've gotten away from the fact that at the end of the day, we are in performing arts, and without an audience, our art doesn't exist. Without public validation, what we do we don't have objects. We only exist in people's memories after the fact. And so for me, I can't, it's my own comfort. I can't go in wanting to push that audience and force them to do anything. I can't go in and go, fuck you, and start that way, because then they'll say, well, who is this girl? I have to hopefully bring them into my world and make them love it. And then I can go, fuck you. And then, and then if they're like, oh yeah, fuck me. Great. Yeah, they're into it. But sorry, can I swear on the radio here? I'm sorry. So that's it. I think it's definitely not my intention with anything that I've done to confront people. But if people are confronted with their own expectations or prejudices by it, then I'm really open to that. And I hope that we can, have a beer and talk about it after the show.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you said that people find or describe my work as confrontating, because for me it never have been my goal either, like to really go there and try to confront them. But I know it is because I'm interested into this horizon d'attente, the expectation, and play with the expectation and try to go somewhere else. So that's always have been something that I like, especially through contortion, because I've been just so fucked and bored by this image that people want to see, and that people, when they come and see contortion, like, they're expecting something from you to do or to be or to act and they want to live more their dreams more than, and the freedom and the fantasy around you more than what actually you're doing. So I have been really interested into that, to try to understand what it is, to try to work with it. And plus I like the idea of making the audience confronting their own idea on something. So if they can project themselves, but they can, more think, I have no idea what the world is all about, and I cannot pretend either that I know. I have no fucking clue. But I am interested into certain things. I do love certain things, and there's things that I want to bring on stage and to share with audience. I think it's more about this idea of sharing. And if people can get something and make them think, but it will always be their own perception, it will always be their own idea or their own imagination. And then si ça peut remettre en question, or to put more questioning things and life on, from the audience, then I think I achieve a bit of my role of doing art or performance. There's something about that I like. I'm not there to tell them how things are. No. I'm ready to say that the table is not a table. I can show you something.
This is not a pipe.
Especially, but I mean, and for me, circus somehow has that capability, because a table for circus artists never you will sit around a table. It's social.
You sit on top of it.
You sit on top of it. You throw it in the air. For me, it can be anything. And that's where I think if we start to see further what things are, then there's a whole world of imagination, and it's a world of fertility, and see where it goes. But I think confronting as well at this point, in that work, actually, I have no idea how it's going. It's really a first time for me, so I really like Virgin and all that. So I'm really in a discovering how I talk, discovering where I'm from, rediscovering circus, rediscovering people, and I always have been so alone in my life, in my craft, in my art as well of a contortionist, that now to reassemble three contortionists, to not create this choreography or, this routine, more than choreography, this routine, the three of them together, but to build more of a piece, something that grows, something that lives, something in interaction, in relation, to build a whole with the three of them. I'm just really interesting, and I'm curious, so I'm just there at the moment and see how it goes. So there's things that have been placed in a certain way for certain reason, but I'm really looking forward to know how people what people are gonna get from it. I'm really what they're gonna think and receive and question. And
I think that's what's so exciting and also so scary about creating this type of work. that we get to make with Piss in the Pool, which is completely audience interactive, site specific. You can think you know what's going to happen, but we have no idea what's going to happen. All of a sudden, when there's 100 people in the room, it's going to look different. It's going to sound different. It's going to feel different. It's going to be different. And I don't think the show will come to life and anyone's work will come to life until that first night when we have an audience. And that's, I think, maybe that's the better time to start talking about your work is once you've had an audience reaction, then you know what it's about and then you know what it means to people. And then if you go to another city, like you said, Andreane, that has maybe the spectators have a different view, a different bagage, a different political situation, a different social situation, they'll see something completely different. And so then your work means something completely different because it means what it means to the people who receive it. And again, I don't think every artist sees that way, but that's how I see it, is that if I get too stuck on what my work is about or what it means, then I might as well just do it in my own house for me and myself and film it and think how great I am. But the point of going into a situation where we're taking this risk of using a different space and of bringing in maybe a crowd that's not used to dance performance, there might be people who aren't dance people who, that's what's great about Wants&Needs Dance and all the events they do, is it really brings a non-contemporary dance crowd into a dance world. And so you get a wide variety of reactions. And I think I'm just really excited. It sounds like Andreane's really excited to just get in that space with the audience on our opening night and see what the work is and let it live and let it take its space.
This year's Piss and Pool, there's the two of you, Andreane, Leclerc, Helen, Simard. Who else is participating? Who else is presenting work?
We have Geneviève Ferron, who's doing group piece, Ben Camino, who's doing a solo, I believe, Audrey Juteau, who's doing a solo as well.
Simon Portugal?
Yeah, who has a group piece as well, I think. Andrew Tay. I'm not sure what Andrew's doing. It's always fun what he does, so it'll be interesting to see. Have I missed anybody? Jessica Cyril, who's doing a duet, I believe, but don't quote me on that, because I might be wrong. It's a really interesting mix of artists. There's established people, emerging people, people who've done the event before, people who it's their first time. So I'm really excited to discover a lot of people's work at the dress rehearsal. And, yeah, it's been a really great exchange. Everybody's energy is kind of buzzing in the space. Sometimes you come in and see the end of what someone's working on. It's a lot of fun. Did we miss anyone?
No. Everybody's there.
So just to remind our listeners, this year's Piss and Pool is going to be from June 26th through June 29th. It's at 8:30 p.m. at Bain Saint-Michel, 5300 Saint-Dominique, at the corner of McGuire. It's around a mile, and the closest metro is Laurier. Andreane, Helen, thank you so much for coming on the show today with us. It was really interesting to have you talk to us about your process and everything.
You.
We're about to listen to the song Bathhouse by Vladimir Vysotsky, which is part of Andreane Leclerc's piece at Piss and Pool.
Протопи ты мне баньку, хозяюшка, раскалю я себя, распалю на плоги у самого краюшка. Я сомнения в себе истреблю, разомлею я до неприличности. Ковш холодный и все позади.
Dirty Feet is recorded every week at the Montreal Improv Theatre. Check them out at montrealimprov.com.
Dirty Feet is produced and hosted by
Alison Burns,
JD Papillon,
Joanie Farran.
and distributed by No More Radio.
You can find more about our show at nomoreradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Dirty Dirty Feet. And you can find us on Facebook at Dirty Feet Podcast.
Tune in next week for a whole new show.
По белому я до белого свету отвык. Угорю я и мне угорелому пар горячий развяжет язык. Сколько веры